This universe that we've created, it's so vast, it's so boundless, it's actually infinite, and we don't even know what's out there. When the game releases, every player who picks up a pad and plays is going to help us discover a little bit more. And I can't wait. I want to finish with just a tiny taste of what your own unique journey into infinity might look like. Hope you like it.
Nearly 10 years ago, the first trailer for No Man's Sky, produced by Hello Games, was released in 2013. I remember the insane amount of hype surrounding this game, with it even winning Best Original Game and Best Independent Game awards. The 2014 E3 trailer has over 8 million views on YouTube. The game promised a procedurally generated universe with quintillions of planets to explore to your heart's content. Expectations for this game were extremely high, and this in part was due to the game's marketing strategy. During the game's marketing, founder of Hello Games, Sean Murray, took part in many interviews where he would discuss the various features the game would have.
Does the game world make BioShock Infinite look less infinite by comparison?
Yes.
Will I get bored playing this game?
Sometimes.
Will I get bored playing this game?
No.
Are planets the size of Earth?
Yeah.
Can I rename Earth something better?
No.
However, many of the answers to simple questions were somewhat vague, which led to further speculation on the game's possibilities. One notable feature that was advertised by Sean Murray was the ability to play with your friends. Theoretically, you should be able to meet up with other players on a specific planet in the vast universe.
Will you be able to play with your friends?
Yeah.
Is there a competitive element to this game?
Yeah, if you want that, yes.
Can you grief other players?
A little bit.
The hype for the game became larger and larger, with player expectations beyond what Sean Murray and Hello Games could have ever hoped to deliver at the time. No Man's Sky was eventually released in August 2016 to generally unfavorable reviews. Players noted that the game lacked depth and was very repetitive. Despite 18 quintillion planets, differences between them were minute and unremarkable. But worst of all, many players felt jilted due to promises made during marketing that were unrealized at launch, including crafting, building, and most notably lack of multiplayer functionality. At launch, despite players meeting up at the exact same location, they were unable to see each other. Many people expressed their anger and frustration due to previous interviews with Sean Murray where he stated that this and other features would be possible. Despite negative reviews, the game sold extremely well, probably due to the huge amount of built-up hype. On the first day of Windows release, there were over 200,000 concurrent players on Steam. However, those numbers dropped drastically by the end of September, just 1 month later to less than 3,000 concurrent players. The following months were full of hate and criticism towards Hello Games. People felt lied to and extremely disappointed. Notably, even the official Hello Games Twitter account was supposedly hacked and released a tweet stating that No Man's Sky was a mistake. Following the backlash, Hello Games remained mostly silent, which frustrated fans and critics of the game alike. Simply put, the initial release was a complete and utter disaster. Despite success with sales, the reputation of Hello Games and Sean Murray was completely in the toilet. Many assumed they had taken their ill-gotten gains and ran away with it. However, November 26, 2016, the aptly named Foundation update was released. This update added base building, farming, freighters, and various other improvements. Many were still disappointed with the game and considered this too little too late, but there were many players who were hopeful and saw it as a promising sign. The team also promised future free updates to come. Perhaps the game would someday live up to the initial hype. March 8, 2017, the next major update named Pathfinder was released. This included visual improvements, increased starships, new vehicles, and more quality of life improvements. People began to shift their perspective on the game, as the team's commitment to realizing the game's full potential became more convincing. August 11, 2017, the Atlas Rises update was released, including a new story, deepened galaxy and trading mechanics, more biomes, terrain editing, space combat improvements, and most importantly, joint exploration, which set the groundwork for co-op gameplay. At this point, most of the comments are praising Hello Games' comeback and appreciation for their commitment to improvement. Nearly a year later, on July 17, 2018, the next update was released. This update included full multiplayer, improvements to base building, a third-person perspective option, character customization, and many more improvements to core gameplay. I think at this point people had fully forgiven Hello Games, as most of the initial promises had actually come true. The Abyss update was released October 29, 2018, enhancing oceans and water in the game, adding submersible bases, submarines, and new underwater creatures. November 21st, 2018, the Visions update was released. New biomes, new creatures, planet diversity, water variation, improvements to skies and weather, and archaeology. The Beyond update was released August 8, 2019, featuring VR support, multiplayer improvement, technology trees, new alien encounters, creature riding, cooking, and improvements to base building and starships. At this point, the game was universally praised, with virtually every comment noting the game's redemption and ability to go beyond expectations. November 2019, the Synthesis update was released, which included starship upgrades, terrain editing tools, and many more improvements to gameplay and features. February 19th, 2020, the Living Ship update added living ships, organic technologies, new missions, as well as space encounters and NPCs. April 7, 2020, the Exomech update added the Minotaur, as well as some other minor improvements. June 10th, 2020, crossplay was added. July 16th, 2020, the Desolation update released, adding derelict freighters with procedurally generated interiors, freighter and combat improvements, and some lighting improvements to the game's visuals. September 23, 2020, the Origins update added new planets, new star systems, landscape improvements, weather variety, color variety, colossal archive buildings, infestations, volcanoes, meteors, insects, wild robots, sandworms, and many more. The Halloween update was released October 26, 2020. October 28, 2020, the Next Generation update improved worlds, base construction, as well as visuals to transition the game to the PS5 era. February 17, 2021, the Companions update allowed taming of creatures, UI and creature behavior improvements. March 31st, 2021, the Expeditions update added a new game mode, starship enhancements, sentinel combat improvements, and other game optimizations. June 2nd, 2021, the Prisms update vastly improved graphics and lighting and added rideable flying creatures. September 1st, 2021, the Frontiers update introduced planetary settlements, nebulas, and some more improvements to visuals and controls. February 16, 2022, the Sentinel update introduced new enemies, weapons, visual effects, a cloaking device, combat improvements, as well as Steam Deck support. April 13th, 2022, added outlaw systems, solar ships, space combat improvements, smuggling squadrons, cloth physics, and new missions. July 20th, 2022, the Endurance update overhauled freighters, added new visual effects, space storms, as well as more quality of life improvements. October 7th, 2022, the Waypoint update was released along with the Nintendo Switch release, allowing custom game modes, trade rockets, more visual upgrades, rare asteroids, and survival challenges. February 22, 2023, the Fractal update was released, adding another expedition, a wonders section in the catalog, allowing you to chart unique species discovered, PlayStation VR 2 support, and more visual upgrades. April 5th, 2023, the Interceptor update introduced corrupted planets, Sentinel fleet diversity, new missions, cursed machinery, new enemies, and Sentinel capital ship battles. June 1st, 2023, No Man's Sky released on Mac. August 24, 2023, the Echoes update introduced new missions involving the autophage robots, outlaw capital ships, starship combat changes allowing you to switch power between shields, attack, and thrusters, holographic museum, destructible freighters, robot customization, pirate frigates, and many more unique items. February 15th, 2024, the Omega update allowed anyone to play for free from February 15th to February 19th. New starships, new missions, and new items. March 27th, 2024, the Orbital update overhauled space stations, introduced trade surges, starship customization, and more visual improvements. July 17th, 2024, the Worlds Part 1 update added new missions, new planet effect changes and diversity, volumetric clouds, detailed shadows, dynamic high-definition water, new creatures, wind simulation, a new combat mech, sky colors, new armors, and improvements to the game engine. September 4th, 2024, the Aquarius update introduced fishing. November 7th, 2024, cross-save was implemented. January 29th, 2025, the World Part 2 update added new landscapes, new biomes, new purple-class solar systems, deep oceans, new planet types, including gas giants, new missions, dense jungles, more environmental hazards, more creatures, relic worlds, and more improvements to water physics and lighting. Finally, the most recent update as of making this video was March 26, 2025. The Relics update introduced fossils, reanimated guardians, new missions, new creatures, new items, and interplanetary navigation. The story of No Man's Sky can be related to the ship of Theseus. If you don't know, an ancient Athenian king named Theseus was said to have slayed the Minotaur and escaped on a ship headed towards the island of Delos. To commemorate this event, the Athenians would take the ship back to Delos. As the years went on, every part of the ship was replaced. Every board, sail, and nail. The question was then raised, if every part of the ship of Theseus was replaced, could it still be considered the ship of Theseus? And if the original no longer existed, at what point did it stop being the ship of Theseus? Regarding No Man's Sky, we go beyond that original paradox. Several updates and changes were made to the game over the course of 9 years. Every aspect of the game was revamped, tweaked, and replaced. Hundreds of items and mechanics were also added to the game. 9 years later, can you really still consider No Man's Sky to be that same game released all the way back in 2016? Perhaps you could speculate that the game became what it was always envisioned to be, and some might say that in its current state it has exceeded the initial expectations presented all those years ago. In that way, the current No Man's Sky can be considered the same as that of 2016, just realized to its full potential. But when comparing the 2016 version and the version today, the games could feel entirely separate. In fact, if the 2016 version had never been updated and the current version released today as a sequel, no one would bat an eye. The changes and updates have taken place over a new console generation, and sequels have certainly been made in less time than 9 years. Regardless of whether the current No Man's Sky can still be considered the same game released back in 2016, it is amazing to see developers care enough about their game over such long periods of time that these questions can even be asked. Even more amazing is the total flip in public perception. In fact, I think most players had fully absolved Hello Games of their sins after 2 years of constant updates. However, even after being forgiven, updates continued to roll out, with the most recent update releasing only 2 months ago. Was the initial backlash deserved? I think to an extent, as there were unfulfilled promises, though people online always take things too far. But No Man's Sky has become so much more interesting because of that initial backlash, coupled with the story and redemption of the game. No Man's Sky would not be as praised and talked about now if it were not for their gradual climb to adoration. So in a way, because the game released below expectations with such heavy criticism, it became the beloved game that it is today. Because of updates and patches, video games can change over time, improving aspects of the game and even being able to morph into something new. No Man's Sky isn't the only game with this story of redemption. Cyberpunk 2077 told a similar tale. Cyberpunk released as a buggy, broken mess, reviews were horrendous, and it was even pulled from PlayStation stores at the time. However, Cyberpunk also released update after update, gradually bettering the game. Nowadays, Cyberpunk 2077 is reviewed very favorably. While these stories are inspiring, I do think they should remain the exception to the rule rather than the rule itself. It is much too common in today's game market to release games buggy and broken with promises to fix it later, after customers have already purchased the game. While I hope this motif does not become a trend in the gaming industry, I still can't help but feel roused by the redemption arc of No Man's Sky. The No Man's Sky of 2016 does not exist anymore. Over 9 years, it became something new and different, while retaining the spirit of the original. A true Thesean paradox of a game.